What's up YouTube? Today I want to show you a really cool trick for upping your transition game. So I often find, well, I'll have two parts to a track that sound really cool but don't quite transition nicely, and kind of getting them to transition takes a little bit of processing and takes a little bit of like gelling of the two parts to actually get to fit. I figured out a really cool technique for getting almost any two parts to kind of transition really well together, and it's also a nice technique for creating atmospheres and ambiences and stuff for your track. Let's dive in and have a look. So here I've got this collaboration track that I've been working on with Priest. I'll actually post links to where you can see more about that in the description. You can go to his channel. You can also go to the stream where we made that live. But there's a new sound that I'm adding in here that I kind of want to use as a transition from one part to the other. This is from my Vital Essentials Volume 2 sound pack. Yeah, I want to show you guys some really cool tricks to, get these really compelling transitions from one part to the other. The idea here is this lead is pretty simple. It's just got a filter on the actual channel to kind of bring it in and out, as well as a little bit of rift feedback light. I'm sure you guys have seen the video in which I did this. Otherwise, it's quickly becoming my new favorite delay plugin just because of its simplicity, and it sounds really, really good as well. Anyway, traditionally with this kind of trick, I would use a send reverb. And what I would do is I would kind of create a dry and a wet, and I'd use the kind of wet reverb wash sound to kind of like transition from one sound into the other. But I've picked up something lately that's particularly powerful, and that's the ability to kind of just duplicate the channel and then just apply effects onto the channel in full wet. And this gives us the ability to kind of like change things live as we're doing it. And most of the time I end up rendering most of my stuff down to audio anyway, so it doesn't really make that much difference whether I'm using send effects or not. Anyway, let me just stop explaining too much and actually get into the example. So traditionally, to kind of transition from this part into the next, what I would do is I would add a send effect, and I would use something like a reverb. So just by default, I'm going to just use Cloud Seed for now, and we can turn the dry down just so that it's only playing the wet effect on this effects channel. Then what I would do is I would actually go over here and I would automate this slider. So what that would do is change the amount of reverb happening over time. So we could just hit like read write and just like record that in as it plays. But now the problem with doing this trick is that we don't really have as much control individually over the reverbed kind of sound and the dry sound. For example, if we create a filter here on this sound, then it's going to apply to that reverb channel as well. And we don't necessarily want that for creating really compelling transitions. We want to be able to like mix in and out of the dry and the wet signal, and kind of create these waves of sound. So let me just remove this effects channel that I've created. We can actually just remove the automation from the sends. We're no longer going to need that. So this trick to get a very similar type of sound, but gives you a lot more control, is what I'll do is I'll actually just duplicate this channel, and then we can actually just go ahead here and apply something like Cloud Seed, which is my newest favorite reverb, and we can just turn the dry down on this channel. So now what we've got is we've got the same things. This is the kind of dry, and this is the kind of just the reverb. So now what I want to do is I can actually jump in here and change these kind of filter parameters here. For example, like with this one, we might not want the reverb to be coming in this whole time. We can maybe slowly fade it in here at the end, and then, do something different with the effects on both of these channels to get more of a kind of immersive kind of journey of soundscapes. So what I like to do here is to create even more of a kind of like spacey journey of soundscapes is let's create another filter after this reverb. So it doesn't matter what filters and what reverbs you use. You can use whatever you prefer. These are just the ones that I find most useful, and I like the interfaces and everything. So just whatever you prefer, just play with it and see what happens. Here, I just want to automate in some movement, which we can edit in the actual automation lane. And here, what I'll do is I'll add another reverb. So this one will maybe not be as intense as the first reverb, and I'll maybe not do it like 100% wet, because we've already isolated the dry sound out of this chain, so we don't necessarily have to keep that kind of mentality of 100% dry wet going, if that makes sense. Let's play around with this next filter that we've added here, and we can create this like really immersive soundscape in this using this reverb. And this is a nice way of kind of creating a sound and then transitioning into the next part, and that sound still echoes out, and you kind of create an ambience or an atmosphere out of that sound to use in the next part. And then vice versa. When you then transition from the next part back into this part, if you use the same technique, you can kind of have this ambience from the previous part running. So it kind of always sounds like these things kind of mix in and work, if that makes any sense. So here I'm just fading in a little bit of delay after that entire reverb change, just to kind of give this transition a little bit more of a kind of rhythm to it. So then what I'll do is I'll usually render out this part. So let's just say render in place, render with current settings. And then maybe just some processing to kind of like mix this a little bit better into the context of the track. I think it's a little bit loud and stuff. And I also just want to remove some of the kind of lows and low mids from this reverb, just to kind of give it more of a high frequency washy type of fit into the mix. And then sometimes, like with this section, sometimes I feel like if it drops into a part that's like too busy, sometimes it can help to, you know, either apply LFO tool or just simply chop the audio on every kick and apply a little bit of a fade in on each of these, just to, you know, kind of give it some space for the kick to pump a little bit, and just to, you know, spacey out the mix a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to apply that same theory to this sound that I've got here. Awesome. That is about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, if you like this video, consider hitting that like button. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to my channel. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.